440 subs. It won't stay there for long. Either somebody's going to figure out how boring I am, or somebody else is going to figure out how fascinating I am. But 440 is a good number. Most auspicious, because 4 plus 4 is 8. And 8 is the symbol of infinity. Apropos of not much, here is my bush knife. And this is my 440 subscriber bush knife recap. I started my channel, or I started posting on my channel, in response to a video from Captain Electro, a knife maker's challenge. Make a knife or take a knife that you have made and carry it with you for a month and use it, and maybe report some of your findings. And as I had actually already made this knife and was already thinking about posting some content on YouTube, I leapt on that opportunity, and I'm grateful, and I will be eternally grateful to Captain Electro, poetic license, because I won't be eternal, but, the gratitude in effect will be, because he helped me out in that way, and he's given me a lot of support and encouragement, and he even sent me this awesome hawkbill, which rides in my left pocket every day, with pretty much without fail, unless I'm in my pajamas, or I might switch it out occasionally for a different hawkbill, but this is generally the one, and it gets a lot of cutting done. Cardboard, sausage, string, cordage, living and dead vegetable matter. I love it. It's a GEC Farm and Field pruner. So, back to this thing. This is my knife that I made. And a major inspiration in the design was William Collins. And I really started working on this knife basically, let's say, while I was on the way to acquiring some William Collins knives, which I now have. And I have 2 of his knives which have the Scandi with tooth. Very similar to this, but different. My wife also has one, and they are great knives. However, what I thought was that it was very fascinating what he was doing with a Scandi transitioning to a flat grind. But what if you had a flat grind transitioning to a Scandi to a flat grind? Or indeed possibly a hollow or what have you. But what we have here basically, as you can see, there's a compound distal taper. So the center of the blade here is where most of the mass is on the blade. So this is, let's say, the robust area for harder use tasks, generally, like you could chop in here, but you still have quite something of a point here for pointy work, and down here, very slicey. So that certainly thinning it out here instead of having a Scandi favors the sliciness, of course, right? Because it allows you to have a steeper angle. Everything on this is basically somewhat convexed, but again, here it's a lot more convexed. Here it's a bit flatter on the Scandi area. It's still fairly Scandi, but somewhat convexed. And then up here it's, this thick convex bevel. So the knife is very robust. And it is easy to observe that this stress point here in the knife is potentially a problem. Given the robustness overall, here is where practically the knife gets thinnest, until you're down to the points here. And that's right in the middle, in the major stress area of the blade. So that, I would say, is an unavoidable weakness or debility in the design. But given that the knife is made from 5160 steel with, I believe, a very, very good heat treatment, for which I am not responsible. I was there when the heat treatment was performed, but that was performed by my friend Vinny the blacksmith, who is a pro, and I am an amateur. So, it's a very tough knife. I have batoned it, I've beaten on it, I've chopped with it on all kinds of wood, and it'll take it. What you see there is almost undoubtedly hemlock. It's not rust, it's I think it's resin that's kind of stuck on there. May have oxidized or rusted a little underneath or whatever, but anyway, it's a hard used knife, and it had some deep scratches in it before I did the heat treatment that I left in, perhaps foolishly, but hey, I'm learning. So it really is very scratched up, but it could be polished. Over time, these angles here, you can see that I kind of chewed into them and that was pretty much a mistake on a recent sharpening venture, but then I tidied it up and I thought, well, maybe that's better, you know. No major noticeable difference in performance from rounding that off a little bit there, you know, as you would if you were sloppily sharpening with a stone and no fixed angle or what have you. So what happened is that since I started posting content and looking at all these knives, and I've kept on acquiring more and more knives. So I've always got new knives to try out and so forth. But at some point recently, I grabbed this one and I put it back on my belt. And I decided, because I'm overdue travel now, I'm going to the wilds of the Michigan Upper Peninsula, and I got to decide what knives I'm going to take with me. And this will be the belt knife that I take with me. And if it were a fire in the house, or indeed genuine shit hits the fan, I have to take to the hills, and what knives am I going to take? I'm not going to take a lot of knives. I might take, 10 or something, because you could have some knives for barter and what have you, but you can't take everything. Well, this one is definitely coming with me. And there are knives that will cut keener. Yes, of course. This will cut keener. And there are knives that will hold an edge for longer, and there are all kinds of knives out there, and I have many knives that would be valued at orders of magnitude higher than this. But it is a custom knife that has, to the best of my knowledge, a completely unique yet highly functional grind. And it has a tapered tang, and it was made from power hammer forged out 5160 steel, so it is tough as nails. In fact, it is clearly tougher than nails, right? And it's a good knife. And so my intention has been, and continues to be, to make some more of this knife. Try and keep it fairly similar, but maybe, experiment a little bit with the profile and the grind and this kind of thing, different steels. And I would like to make this knife available to people who might want a knife like this. What do you reckon? Thank you for watching, everybody. Welcome to my channel. Nowadays, there's really nothing more important than social media. And so, although it is a humble channel, and it's not very accomplished and often quite boring, possibly straying regularly into the absolutely stupid, my YouTube life and amateur career has become quite important to me. And it's not about numbers, and it's not about anything in particular, but it is a little bit about everything. I've said in the past that I don't have any objectives with my YouTube channel other than that people listen and enjoy. And that was probably an attempt at honesty that might have been a bit of a fail, because I have all kinds of objectives. I wouldn't even know how to summarize them. But if you keep watching, you'll probably figure it out. It's not that complicated.